the notion of what I talked about last podcast was setting goals so large that it requires God to be in them. Like if you think I can do this in my strength and my might, right? The podcast is called All Thy Might Podcast. It's kind of a play on this because if you think you're going to do it all yourself, there's no way. Like the wilderness, the messy middle, the in between is supposed to develop you into the person that you need to become, okay, more than it is that you actually accomplish the thing. So set a goal that's so lofty with God's blessing, right? He might not have that in the cards for you at all, but if you're going to set a goal that is so lofty that God would have to be in it for it to become true. And if you don't ever accomplish it, release it. Talked about this 2 episodes in a row. Release it so well that you are indifferent, but you're more worried about your relationship with Jesus and who he needs you to become in pursuit of the thing that he has laid on your heart, right? And so I think of a couple of different stories from the Old Testament. First and foremost, I love talking about David. We talked about him last podcast where he is anointed. Okay. So if we go to 1 Samuel in the Old Testament, it's around chapter 16, David gets anointed. In chapter 19, Saul is trying to kill him. He's on the run. And it's not until chapter 30-ish, I think, or a little after, that he actually becomes the king. And so there's all of this elements of life. We just think like, oh yeah, David was anointed and he became the king. And then, we know that Jesus came through that lineage and like all this stuff. And it was all great and hunky-dory. And hey, we know the end of the story, right? But David was living that out, was anointed. And see, this is where people want the crown, but they don't want the crushing, right? They don't want the wilderness part or the development. And God almost always, before he elevates, develops a person in isolation, right? And so in these seasons of entrepreneurship that really just aren't for everyone, I think it has the tendency to be some of the most isolating, polarizing, lonely aspects of life that you could really ever experience. It's because you feel like I'm on this path. I feel like God told me to go after this thing. Nobody supports me. The relationships I had are gone. I might be aligned with some friends. I have some acquaintances, but nobody gets it. Nobody understands this perspective. But I'm telling you, every time, like, you need to see that. I need to see that as validation and verification that you're on the right path that God is calling you towards, because it's never meant to be easy. If it were easy, you wouldn't need God to rely on in this. I hear this all the time, and I know what people mean. I think it's a sweet sentiment, and it makes a good sticker, a bumper sticker, so to speak. But it's that God will never give you more than you can handle. I think that's ludicrous, truly. I think God gives us more than we can handle all the time, because if we could handle it all, why would we need God?